governance is not the most important part. Product is the most important part. That's like my vision of the future.
Governance is not the most important part. This takes some balls. Honestly, this is very creative. Honestly, the first thing I saw it, I thought it was AI generated, just like for comms.
I believe that we don't really need 100% transparency, but we need clarity. I hope that AI will resolve all problems,
All the problems.
somewhere in the future, really.
Governance, hunger, energy, everything. Let the AI solve it.
Everything, yeah. Everything AI resolve, and we will just rest in some nice places.
How did you end up in this madness and chaos that we call governance? Hi, everyone. My name is Jamila,
And I'm Eugene.
and this is Governance Futures podcast, where we discuss the past, present, and future of decentralized governance. And this week, we had amazing guests. Jen from Lido. She is DAO Comms Lead. And Eugene, what are your impressions right after having conversation with Jen? How do you feel?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. It was, of course, great getting to learn a little more about the dual governance model. I'm always fascinated in hearing from people what the actual experience is like, just on a more personal level when it comes to going through these changes. Yeah, I mean, working in communities and decentralized communities, you never know what the experience is going to be like. So I do appreciate Jen just sharing. And yeah, it was really interesting to hear kind of the benefits that everyone seems to be seeing around the value alignment, incentive alignment, getting folks on the same page. So yeah, I think it's just really exciting to see some of the bigger, more long-standing projects really mature and kind of set new standards in that direction. So yeah, I think it's really exciting to see what Lido has been up to in that sense. What about you, Jamila? What are some of your takeaways from the conversation?
I really enjoyed the conversation as well. To me, Jen presented as a person who builds up on, the progress and the fact that she mentioned that she was rather disappointed. That was my impression by Vitalik's quote that he kind of called to take away the legitimacy of existing governance structures in order to build something new. And she strikes me as a person who prefers to just gradually build
Yeah.
one thing at a time on the things that we've spent so much time and effort and research on instead of just
Yeah.
like abandoning it and trying to create a wheel. So that approach really inspires me because very often we do get those moments of frustrations where I feel like, especially in Web3, where everything changes so fast and so quickly, we're just like, oh, you know what, whatever, I'm just gonna scrap everything and start anew.
Yeah.
But her approach, I think, is more methodological, and in my eyes, it was great to hear from her as a person who was so actively involved in recent governance changes at Lido. And yeah, she's just a fun person to talk to. And this thing that they've pulled with putting the announcement of the votes in Times Square was
Yeah.
just something like, you know what? Hell yeah, why not? So that was fun.
I
I really
honestly
did appreciate
totally
it.
missed that. I had no clue they did that until we were in the conversation. But yeah, no, I do appreciate what you also brought up there with, even when you do burn it all down and build anew, you're still building on your experience and everything that has happened. It is just a bit about how do we reframe it because the end goal is being in a different state. It's just about, how aggressive and throwing everything out do you want to be versus how incremental and growth oriented do you want to be. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a super fun conversation. If you do enjoy the conversation, you should go ahead, like, subscribe, share with a friend. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or want to suggest guests for the future. And so, yeah, with that, go ahead and enjoy the conversation with Jen.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast. Let me start by asking you just the first question. How did you end up in this madness and chaos that we call governance?
Hi, hello everyone. Hello, guys. Thank you for having me. First of all, um, regarding the question, Before we start, I will just note that everything that I'm sharing today is like my personal opinion, not the legal advice, not the financial advice, and anything like that, and not the opinion of the whole Lido contributors or specifically Lido DAO decision. So that's all my personal how I'm approach things and how I'm dealing with the governance. And the question was how that comes. I'm in the Web3 governance. That's an interesting one. I think that's really connected to my personality because I always been passionate about the tech industry and specifically the parts of tech industry which leads to the future, to change, to development and improvements. And I think that's just the place where I need to be somewhere in a time. I started my career in fitness tech and work in SaaS for quite a long time. But later I decided that want to go to the deeper tech industries. I was researching and working with different projects for a year over the AI and Web3. And at the end of this story, I find out that my products and marketing and growth experience, communication experience fits really well into the Lido DAO communications part. And I started to contribute into the Lido DAO. I wanted to count how many years ago. It's already 2.5 years. Um, yeah, I also like the governance because I believe that um, there are need to be some ways to govern things differently, not the corporate way, but more decentralized, more equal. And I'm really inspired to be able to build it all together with the other guys in like Lida specifically, of course, and in the whole industry.
How do you guys approach decentralization at Lido? Or perhaps you could also share your personal vision of what decentralization is to you. I'm going to preface this by saying that usually we focus our episodes on what is the future, what is the present, the past of governance, where we headed. But most recently, we started to actually ask people question, how did they define decentralization? Because it's decentralization is like the biggest buzzword of crypto ever, in my opinion. So it's very interesting because to every guest who comes to our podcast, it means something different. So first of all, may I ask you, what is it to you? And perhaps you could maybe give us some insight on how you approach it at Lido.
Yep, sure. Like an easy answer would be that decentralization is the absence of censor.
Mm-hmm.
That
One, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, probably the most popular one. Um, when we're talking about the Lida DAO and Lida contributors, I would say that almost everyone I meet during those 2 years really serious about making Ethereum more decentralized and really believe that that's the only option uh, to do it right is to do it decentralized. And there were a lot of projects to support decentralization, to improve the decentralization. One I wanted to mention is community staking module in LIDA, which actually really helps with decentralizing validation of Ethereum. We also have, for those who are interested in the decentralization approach in LIDA, we have the core card. Um, I said that 3 years ago, the builders just come all together and find out how the decentralization of the protocol might be improved and collected all those items to be improved for the future. And during those 3 years, all items that were placed in the improvement needed here section were moved to the good or okay status. And the last part was actually dual governance with the decentralization of governance.
We're going to talk about this, the dual governance and I was about to actually ask you, how did you feel? Because I saw in your ex, you shared that this was one of the hardest things you had to work in Web3. And also, you guys had like a humongous poster on Times Square announcing it. What was it? Could you explain a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, the poster was mostly a joke. Yeah. I will start from the poster because I'm joking that we're a trendsetter because I've seen that some guys from Safe started to do things like that. Initially, when team prepared the vote to release dual governance, they have like really, really, really long list of items moving to the vote, something around 55 or 57, something like that. And we were discussing like how actually it might be visible for those who will be voting, like all this stuff. And someone told like, we need a banner on some skyscraper. And I was like, actually we can afford it.
What skyscrapers do we know of? Let's
Such a
go to
crypto
Times
move.
Square. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, this takes some balls. Honestly, this is a very creative, but also like honestly, the first thing I saw it, I thought it was AI generated, just like for comms. I couldn't actually believe that you actually guys decided, you know what, might as well just post it there. Why not?
Yeah. But it's not expensive. It's just like some people celebrate their birthday there on those screens. So the hardest part was to make moderation team of those billboard to be sure that we're not promoting some financials in their board. Yeah, and that was the hardest part. But like I'm happy that you mentioned it because I I personally mostly focusing during my work on the user experience and communications, informational design, all this stuff. And that was the part of the release dual governance communications, which we wanted to be same time clear from the technical perspective, inspiring for STF holders, like celebration for the team because team have been working on it. They're yet working on it, but like for 3 years, if we will include the research part, and for a year and a few months, if we're talking about the development, uh, and like it's really hard to make it all at once.
It's crazy.
For sure. Yeah, and I guess before we start unpacking dual governance itself, can you, in case folks aren't aware of what governance was like heading into dual governance and the updates that happened, what was governance like, say, the months before that vote took place?
I yet think that Lido governance is pretty simple and straightforward. We have clear process for any proposal to become and to execute and change protocol. Overall, the process is you need to uh, prepare a post on research forum and proposal on research forum if you're not actually don't actually know uh, how to move from the idea to the proposal part. We have a team who will like DAO operations who will assist you with the transforming proposal your idea into proposal. Then there would be the snapshot vote of chain vote as a DAO preliminary agreement to invest into development of such thing. And then when the things are ready, after audits and preparation, we have on-chain vote where LDO holders, which is LDO is the Lido DAO governance token, vote on the proposal to execute it finally and change the protocol parameters, part of the protocol, or add something new like dual governance.
And can you add the role that delegates play in that, especially from, say, the lens of which delegates might actually be incentivized to get deeper in governance?
We have delegate incentivization program to incentivize delegates, and like our delegation yet open for everyone who are willing to participate. Our program is pretty simple. It started a year ago or yeah, September last year. Really a year ago. Yeah.
Happy 1 year anniversary.
Yeah. And we try to build something simple because we've seen how other DAOs estimating the contribution from delegates and how they organize like delegates communications, delegates participation, and we believe that the easiest it is, the better it works. Our main goal was to attract high quality delegates from the industry with the different perspective. For example, the Anthony from Aragon is Lido DAO delegate. We have Polar, who are pretty famous in terms of the Ethereum culture. We have Paul Lansky. So we just wanted people with reputation participate as a delegates. We were able to attract some of them, and for being incentivized, the rules are straightforward. If you have 1 million LDO delegated to you and you participate in discussions and votings, you will be incentivized. The idea was that we will have the delegate oversight committee, which consists from the people from contributors of Lido DAO and Agora, uh, guys from Agora, to make it make check and balances better here.
Mm,
And accountability, we try to avoid the situation when delegates accountable to the contributors and contributors actually proposing something to change. So delegates need to vote for it because they are accountable to contributors. That's why we built those committee, and we believe that it's enough, and you don't need to count each forum post or each comment or each question, because those delegates are able to contribute in the areas where they have expertise, where their contribution are valued. That's more or less how it works. They are usually participate on the discussion phase on forum when it's something controversial or something that needed more clarification before voting. Some proposals in Lido DAO are straightforward to fix something or to adjust parameters because of some
yeah,
changes, and there is no need of discussion.
yeah.
But in the discussion where they needed, they're participating. They are also voting off chain and on chain. Provide
Okay.
reasoning, support comms in their personal accounts sometimes, which I'm really thankful.
Yeah. And so it sounds like the goal of the kind of incentive program that you put in place was to match the right people with the right questions more so than, say, dealing with general passivity and governance or problems along those lines.
Yeah, when we proposed the incentivization program, one of the main ideas was that to understand LIDA protocol and LIDA proposals, you need to allocate some time. And
Mm.
if you need to allocate some time, it's fair to be paid for it.
Yeah. Governance is work, so it's fair to recognize it as such. And so I guess jumping to getting an understanding of the dual governance system that went up for vote and got approved. Yeah, how do you, when people ask you, what's dual governance? What's your kind of summary answer there?
My favorite would be, yeah, the dual governance is a stakeholders holders right to exit safely.
Hmm.
Because I believe that like decentralized finance started from those right to exit. But if we're talking a bit more concrete here, dual governance is the mechanics which allowed STF holders to block LDO holders' decision if they want to. That's hard enough, so that's wouldn't mm, end up in a situation when some STF holders just will be blocking LDO holders' decisions just for fun. But if something like there are some trust issue or security issue, they're able to defend themselves and defend their stake, first of all.
Okay.
So the idea is pretty simple. Right now, after the LDO on-chain voting, the proposal moved to the dual governance before being executed.
Mhm.
And STF holders have 3 days to come and say, like, we are against. And if enough STF holders come and like say we are against those proposal, the governance would be blocked and nothing will be executed until the resolution. And there are a few ways of resolution. There are one way of resolution when LDO holders will talk with STF holders, will change their decision, and that just would be canceled, or STF holders who are just don't want to be the part of Lido protocol after those changes happened, just leave the protocol on their.
I'm curious on the talking part. Who does this facilitation? Have you had any instances when it happened and you had to step in? Or who is responsible to facilitating those two parties to come together and hopefully find some resolution?
Fairly say, I believe that the community will resolve it, because like the situation when it might happen is, I hope, will never happen, but
Okay. So you never had any instances. It's just something that potentially might happen and
yeah, for sure. The idea is that when you have those rights to exit, it's like lower the probability of such thing happens, because everyone knows that there are uh, possibility to oppose. That's the case. There are also like the idea that mm, in case of some malicious attack to LIDA, malicious actor need to keep in mind that they will have nothing, because before they will be able to have what they want, all STF just leave the protocol. That's like make it useless to attack. That's the case. And for LDO holders, they also right now know that if there are misalignment in between STF and LDO, there need to be some resolution. There are also some committees to discuss it, but I think that if some such situation will happen, it would be public debates and like yeah, probably delegates will be involved.
right. But um, forgive me, but I think in my understanding, it really has to come to very big contentious vote or something that would just divide the community, allowing some to leave, others to maybe just stay. What happens when, for example, just one person, one community member, one delegate is not happy? Then the only avenue they have is to like sell everything they have and say whatever because
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's yet not resolving like the majority minority problem.
Mm. Interesting. And so I guess to recap, when you introduce the dual governance model, the LDO governance side, kind of the old model, it's not that that model changed. It's that another layer was added where stETH holders effectively got a veto mechanism, so to say, or a way to approve or disapprove of the LDO governance decision. Is that a fair way to represent it, or were there any changes to the core governance of what was happening on the LDO side as well?
No, that's right to right to say for STF holders, like next layer, next step in the governance process.
And in general, do you see or have there been instances where you know that STETH holders kind of have incentive to get LDO to partake in that layer of governance? Or do they now so even more feel empowered of, oh, it doesn't matter whether or not we have LDO because we kind of get this second layer of approval?
I think that's like might be the case for some STF holders. But I even I even seen the charts, like how the addresses that holds LDO, how they interconnected with the addresses hold STF, and that's a lot a lot of holders, LDO holders also hold STF, which is actually obvious because they wanted to have a governance token, and they support the protocol which governance token they have, so stake with Lida, which make a lot of sense to me. But overall, I think that right now for STF holders there are no reason to buy LDO to participate in governance if they don't want go deeper, to if they don't have some specific ideas. Now STF holders are defended from any unpredicted silent changes.
And so I guess another element of the question is, what was the experience of getting it passed like? Because this is a pretty big introduction into the system. How did the LDO holder community react? How did the stETH holder community react? Was it generally seen as great? This is positive sum. We're aligning our incentives, or were there, inevitably some kind of conflicts or disagreements about how this would affect the system?
That's actually what I'm usually explain like really proactive step for LIDA DAO, because I believe that LIDA governance community are really value aligned. Um, we have LIDA DAO vote where the mission, vision, and values stated, and it was voted by LDO holders. We had a quorum there, and governance participants overall this time were really consistent in supporting decentralization, staking simplicity, and all those values that we have in those vote. And dual governance actually was the part of the deliverables which were aligned with values. It's good for Ethereum, it's good for decentralization, and there were no comments from the LDO holders or no tension in between STF holders and LDO holders. I even may say that STF holders even more passive than LDO holders, because this is just they're just users of the product. They don't really want to participate in governance usually. So I hope during the time we will see that dual governance valued from the user's side, but it's live only for like months or maybe 2 months right now. So it's too early to say that, I don't know, that it pushed um, amount of stake in Lida. But I hope that later it would be the uh, plus few points to stake with Lida.
Yeah, we'll have to bring you on again next year to see how, when we're at the 1 year anniversary of dual governance, how that's going in retrospect. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to hear about how this kind of worked out and is helping with that kind of value alignment and incentive alignment. And I think so many, DAOs struggle in different ways in feeling that all of the relevant stakeholders are represented in governance. And I mean, do you feel, and has the sentiment been that all of the different people around the ecosystem kind of are really feeling that, this is the thing that's getting us all on the same page more so? It sounds like it is a step in that direction, if not a major move there.
Yes, I think so. Like at least active part
Mm.
of the LDO holders were like supported the moves to build the strong background for the protocol. And dual governance is actually just a puzzle to those strong background for future growth.
And I guess for a moment of, zooming away from Lido specifically and just thinking about the state of governance generally in the space, I think I know a lot of, say, L2s are struggling with, oh, well, you have this governance participation community, and a lot of them are more professionalizing as governance experts, so to say, or, professional delegates. But I know for us currently, a big problem on our mind is like, how do we actually get the groups building in our ecosystem active in governance? Like, how do we get these other active stakeholders in governance? And I guess what's your general view on kind of dual governance models as a stepping stone towards general value alignment for other ecosystems? Or do you think that there's something unique about Lido where it can work really well there, but might not port well to, say, L2 governance or other areas?
That's an interesting question. Uh, I believe that when you're talking about the professional delegates and the governance experts, I think the first problem is on that level. First of all, we as a community who are developing the Web3 governance need to understand uh, what actually those governance expertise are. Because from my point of view, each project needs its own set of experts that need to be presented. And governance expertise is just like small parts. If we're thinking about the how the systems evolve, the governance need to be that tiny so no one noticing that governance is here. That's like my vision of the future, because like governance is not the most important part. Product is the most important part. So
Governance is not
for
the most important part. No, no, no. But
yeah,
I agree. I liked your example of it's it shouldn't felt like it's there, but it should make your life easier. It's something essential, at least to me, I think. But it should not be. I don't know. It
as
shouldn't.
readable as it is right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's actually from my point of view the issue. And uh, if you have a lot of governance experts, they will want to talk about governance, not about users, not about projects, not about product, but about the governance. And it will never finish if you like the main part of your decision makers or even discussion participants are want to talk about governance, not about the market, product, users, needs, whatever. And I don't think that the something like dual governance is the resolution of this problem, but I think that as the community, we first need to understand how to uh, how to form governance process to have those experts participating in the dual governance or any other tools to align users' incentives with governance participants' incentives. It's just take other things which also need to be designed. I'm not sure that everyone need it. I'd say that the protocols which holds millions of users' funds need to have something like that. Some way to align users' risks with the decision making makers' risks. That's actually like not the news. Like corporate governance also work in this way and trying to resolve those problems for quite a long time. But yeah.
But to clarify, you're not saying that governance is not important, is that it
Yeah.
should be separate from, when it comes to discussions about market fit, ecosystem growth, whatever that might be. So it shouldn't be just the whole center of every discussion. Because
Yeah.
I feel like in our space, sometimes governance is kind of like disregarded by some of the builders as non important and I personally try to make a point that it is very important, but I actually agree with you that it is important so much that we should actually have it designed, but in a way that actually is like air, you breathe it every day. It's essential for you, but you don't necessarily see it. If you do, it's something is off.
Exactly, exactly. It's really important. And the like wrong builded governance leads to the enormous amount of problems
Mhm.
and issues and challenges. And the actually all current challenges we're faced with is because of the we're just experimenting on the governance design. But long term, I believe that we need to go to those like tiny governance which will serve the project
Mhm.
it governed. Uh, and the professional delegates with their governance expertise doesn't make me feel that they are on the same page with me, because
Mm.
they are usually wanted to talk about governance more, not
Mm.
proposing like solutions for
Mm.
make make the decisions more informed, or uh, change the frameworks to make decisions faster, better, involve some experts which needed and missed right now in the protocols. That's
So like governance for the sake of governance is where we would run into a dead end. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely no shortage of governance theater in the space, so that view makes sense. And I guess I think another thing that really sets apart Lido governance from others is sort of the need of the technical understanding, because I think in a lot of environments, like I'm not I'm not an engineer, I'm not a computer scientist. I would feel comfortable stepping into most governance environments. But then when I looked at Lidos, it's like, whoa, I'm going to need to do a lot of homework before I can possibly step into here. And so, yeah, I guess as part of, when you're seeing both the selection of delegates and who you invite and who that kind of can bring in, what do you see as both the positives and negatives of that kind of requirement, so to say, and recognizing it's not a literal, mandated thing as much as we're just a complex protocol and you need to understand it if you want to be part of governance?
That's that's a hard one for me, because I'm also not an engineer, and I needed to learn a lot uh, to understand on-chain governance in LIDA. And I believe that like technical expertise highly needed, but it might be designed better than it is designed right now in LIDA. LIDA specific uh, is that literally no changes to protocol might pass by any other way except the on-chain voting.
Mhm.
We have also like EasyTrack, but the no big releases or something like that might go to the EasyTrack. EasyTrack is just um, optimistic governance, yet accountable to the LDO holders for some operational things which are just repeated quite often, and we just don't want to burn out community with the execution of those operations. Um, we did a lot of work, specifically the team which calls DAO operations team and DAO infrastructure team, to make it easier to understand technical part. Uh, Guys preparing the guides to validate each on-chain proposal, trying to explain every part of each vote, but yet it's too hard for for big parts of audience. It's too hard. It's too technical. Probably best way would be if we have some technical experts who will validate, but it's much less decentralized. Same time. So you need to make some trade-offs. We made those trade-offs that we will try to educate everyone. We will try um, to make people feel comfortable to vote on the technical proposals, because there are few auditors, respectful auditors, who audited and say that those code actually do what was decided to what was decided before. the transparency level with the possibility to check everything, to understand what each line in the vote means. Also, just first of all, make people feel that we're not trying to hide anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have like the right answer how it need to be designed, but the way it done in Lido is keep decentralization, keep LDO holders with their responsibilities to make decisions and execute them, and the infrastructure team, which are trying to make it easier to educate on the changes, on the protocol, on everything.
And I guess a clarifying question also with the structure around Lido, how much, when you say infrastructure team or different teams, how many of the teams came into existence at the time of governance existing versus has governance approved kind of every team or committee? And kind of what does the process look like on that side in Lido governance?
Usually, like there are different processes. The main process is the granting process to the Lido Labs Foundation. We have like a few foundations, Lido Labs, Lido Ecosystem, and Lido Alliance right now. And DAO providing them grants uh, to maintain the protocol, to upgrade the protocol, to deliver on the goals which were set by the DAO. And that's the one part of it. Uh, and like token holders in DAO never asking how the teams inside foundation structured. Like
Mm.
it might be one big team. Actually, we're we're pretty decentralized and the team structure changing. Some people leaving, some people started to contribute. Some like that's chaotic, really.
Yeah.
But
Would it be
if
Web3 without the chaos?
yeah. But if we talking about the committees and any mandate from the DAO to the committee to do something for the DAO, it's also each time need the DAO white vote to like have those mandate for those committee, and committee all of them are public. They have participants from the Lido core contributors and usually from some other protocols projects somewhere else, because we believe that if it's a mandate to only one party connected anyhow, it's not really good decentralization. And the commitment to keep the level of decentralization as high as it possible to operate with make us organize it this way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And, it seems like you're saying like this balance, there's almost a consistent balancing act that needs to happen between the decentralization, certain elements of the operations. And I know from the previous question, you were mentioning something like transparency or security or these other kind of, important questions that just look different when they're in fundamentally decentralized environments. So, yeah, I guess how do you think about that consistent tension point between, say, the operations and, transparency or operations and security and how both the DAO and the foundation team kind of thinks about these?
It's changing, like it's always changing, because
Hmm.
the any project need to react on the worlds outside the project, and the market itself, like Ethereum itself, changing a lot right now. I wouldn't answer uh for the DAO, because DAO have never had a vote, like how to place those dots in between all those things. Um I also believe that inside the contributors group, it would be really hard to align on how we feel about this, because we have like community staking team, which will be like 100% transparent, 100% open, something like this. We have like other teams who will be a bit more conservative and trying to place it somewhere in the middle. Um, I personally, when we're talking about transparency, uh, keeping in mind all my Web3 experience with the governance and all my previous experience, I believe that we don't really need 100% transparency, but we need clarity. We need people uh, we need to make it possible for people who need some information to get those information. Lido Analytics workstream actually do the great work here, providing a lot of dashboards to explain uh, Lido core metrics. Stakehouse providing like on-chain Dune reports on the Lido financials, and you actually really can check the protocol spendings for the whole time of Lido protocol works deployed. Uh, so I think that next step would be to make it easier to understand all those data we are surrounded.
So is it the problem that there's just so much information that people can't even figure it out themselves where to look at if they need some quick stats data, or is it's just so much of it but it's also so complicated that we need to focus on how do we disseminate that information, or how do we make it more digestible for ordinary users who don't need to go through all of the documents, they just need to look for answer for one particular question.
Yeah, I think that's more the second option.
Mm.
Um, I personally really struggling with like choose between neutrality and some context over the data we have. And if you want to be neutral, the information you provide feels useless because like it's just data that's hard to interpret it. Even with like some additional data in it, when no one comment on the sense, why is it happening, what the context behind, how actually you when you build those dashboards, what was the use cases to use it, what was the idea, who and why will need it, and information are complex. Uh, Same time there are a lot of data, same time there are a lot of misinterpretation of those data that are um, visible for everyone, and whenever you try to make it more clear, you're just do the new cycle of misinterpreting the information. So that's really hard area, but I believe that first we need to learn how to clearly explain the basics, and then we would be able to learn how to add more context on top of those basics.
And I guess as part of, whatever a future solution will be in that realm, uh, how do you see the role of AI there? I feel like that's an unavoidable question
Mm.
these days.
Yeah, I hope that AI will resolve all problems
All the problems.
somewhere in the future. Really,
Governance, hunger, energy, everything. Yeah, let the
Everything.
AI
everything,
solve it.
everything. Yeah, everything AI resolve, and we will just rest in some nice places. Um, I've seen a lot of projects which are summarizing proposals and trying to explain changes in
Mhm.
protocols. The problem here that there are no users for such projects,
Mm.
and there are some delegates who are using it. Of course, there are some people who are using it, but it's much more projects than users.
Yeah.
That's what I see right now.
Too
And
many AI service providers, too little of a number of people who are actually using it. Is that comes from your
Yeah.
practical observations that you see too many projects, but there's just not enough users?
yeah, and I'm not sure that the reason why they
Mm.
run not a lot of users is because the uh, absence of clarity of the information, because they're providing like some summaries, make it shorter. Uh, I don't know. I think that AI might help with discussions. I think AI might help with some validation against really clear, for example, to like AI. I don't believe that AI will be able to validate if the project or proposal are fit into the core value which were
Mm.
stated. But I believe if you have like the KPIs, KPI
Mhm.
system, AI will be able to check that the based on the Dune dashboards that it's reached all good by the token.
Do you use any AI tools at Lido?
I use like basics, uh, Claude, ChatGPT. I also use uh, how did it called, chat PDR for product requirement docs, because I'm also working with the interfaces and need to provide some uh P- PRDs for devs. um we all actually, our team is a big fan of Google Notebook. Do you know their LLM, which are you can just download their information, and the notebook will use only the information which you downloaded here. We build one tool for internal use to check what was the proposal, like what was the process that DAO voted, to check if we are not, if,
Was it like a local copy that you
yeah,
download? Okay, that's cool.
Hmm.
yeah, like really recommend you to try.
Nice.
Uh, Probably like different teams use different tools. That's what I need for communications. Um, I believe that other guys using the other stuff.
I meant more like maybe within the DAO or something like an AI
Yeah,
enabled dashboard, whatever. No, okay, cool.
not yet.
Okay.
Just uh, real human built dashboards.
Yeah.
Leaving that work to the humans for now before the AIs solve everything. Um, but I did also want to jump a little bit towards the topic of legitimacy, and specifically kind of jump to a quote that Vitalik recently mentioned, where step one, burn down the legitimacy of the existing paradigm. I guess using that as a jumping off point, kind of, yeah, what do you think of that approach and what is your general view? I know we've touched on it a little bit with some of the decentralization theater, but yeah, like, what's your view on that kind of approach of burning down how we think about governance these days?
I believe that like burn down everything you have after 10 years, uh, instead of evolving it, not the right way to behave. That's like my pretty straightforward answer. Um, because mm, actually, when I started to contribute to the LIDA, I tried to like, it was usual start, no job description, no goals, nothing. Just please solve
All
this.
our issues.
Fix
Yeah,
governance.
please solve something. Yeah, and the legitimacy was the one thing we discussed quite a lot with guys inside. Um, and from one point of view, I don't believe like Vitalik itself himself can just say like those are not legit anymore, because legitimacy earned from people, from community, not from one person. But same time,
Unless it's an authoritarian state.
yeah, yeah. But thankfully, we are talking about the Ethereum. Um, but same time, it's really sad to me to hear that um, that someone think that all those experiments, all those tools, all those approaches, all those frameworks which were developed by the community uh, is kind of useless. I
Mm.
believe it's not. I believe that we just need to evolve what we have. We can't jump out of the paradigm we sit in to some other paradigm. And referring to the those Vitalik talk, he actually not proposed
And you said,
something like completely new
mm.
here. He proposed some paradigm where which are really close to the current one. Uh, the problems in the current one is that reality and capitalism works a bit differently than punks expected. So I don't really feel that the way he proposed will somehow work better with same problems. So yeah, I believe that we don't need to burn everything out. We need to evolve.
I feel like that brings up a really interesting point around how many of these challenges are due to some kind of systematic challenge that we're not addressing correctly, or are they actually coming down to different expectations, as you're kind of alluding to? And we're all pretending that, like decentralization solves everything, full stop, when, it solves specific problems and, it's not having enough nuance. And so I guess in maybe a specific direction to take that question is around the role that tokens actually play in our ecosystems. And, are they meant to be representative of some kind of utility function? Are they meant to be representative of ownership or responsibility or other things? And the fact that we don't actually have that shared understanding could be leading to some more of these issues. Um, yeah, I guess what's your kind of reaction to that general line of thinking?
This path is like each DAO unique, so that's actually expected that tokens also would like tokens functions will be unique. Um, and yep, you're right that governance token, not ownership tokens, not all of them have utility. Should we do something with that right now? I don't think so. I believe that for the future of governance and for the future builders, it would be really nice to think about the system design
Mm.
before they started and find out the specific tokens model or token model for specific projects. But same time, that's not the answer. That's just one part of the system. Uh, Tokens can't resolve everything. You yet need to be able to work with check and balances, with principal agent problem, with uh, oligopoly, with the capitalism, and the problem that decentralization actually killed the effectiveness. That's like nothing token can do about that. But maybe when you just design, keeping all this in mind, you will be able to come up with some better token model than existing one.
Yeah. So, unlike the potential of AI, tokens cannot solve all problems and need to be much more specific to the actual design of your system.
But it's also, I feel like it's the question towards that uniqueness. I feel like generally there's a trend that even when it comes to constitutions or like, you know, terms of use of the website, whatever, we just see projects copying it from whoever is leading that area, DeFi, whatnot. And very often I would just see the same policies written, just like the project name changed. And maybe very similar feeling I have when I see projects of replicating someone's governance or someone's token design just because they saw someone doing it and that working for that other project. So I think it's very important that you brought this point that there's just not one universal governance, that there's no universal token that would be completely like just the standard for all the DAOs. They're all very unique and different, and we should keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I guess and I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time together and we'll have to switch to the last segment soon, but I did want to ask kind of one more question with that in mind. Again, thinking broadly towards the future of governance. If you got to decide what are some experiments happening in the next year, whether in Lido or other ecosystems, what kind of research you want to see happening more of, what do you see as, some of the topics that are most important for us to kind of solve some of these questions and get closer towards just better functioning governance systems?
Short answer would be how to define the scope for the DAO. Because I think that the scope is the key. What need to be governed, how to build, how to design the system that keep the whole system accountable to the DAO, but same time, uh, which scope need to be 100% sure um, decided by the whole DAO vote, and what can be delegated to who, maybe to some experts group, maybe to some, I don't know, some projects, maybe to contributors who are deeply involved in the current state of the projects. And I think that the if we will be able to find the framework to scope governance right, we will be able to find the frameworks to make it faster, to make decisions more informed. Like everything, scope solves a lot of like a lot of obstacles for me. But that's hard because the scope are actually connected um, with regulations, with expertise, with specific products which are built. So that's hard. But if I'm choose the one direction to investigate, it would be how what is the approach to figure out the scope of governance decisions.
Yeah, I really love that you went in that direction. And because I feel like, especially, it speaks to one of the core problems, or at least in my personal view, of one of the core problems of Web3 and the way we've been going about governance, which is that, like, we want this DAO to exist because, decentralization. And like the scope of labs isn't always fully set. The scope of the foundation is reactive to labs, which both of those aren't always fully set. And then you just add a third organization because why not? And now you have kind of three organizations which might not have clear scope, might not have clarity of mission, vision, values. I literally wrote down on a post-it of like, ooh, thing to research. How many DAOs have actually voted on and approved their mission, vision, values? Because how can you actually scope the DAO if you never even had that conversation? So I really appreciate you highlighting the importance of that direction. And I think, we're seeing obviously a lot of change, A16Z's whole, this is the end of the foundation era view now. And will that make it easier to have the right scope? I actually don't know that that will inherently make it easier. And it looks, I see you shaking your head as well. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that before we actually have a conversation with a lot of stakeholders, we wouldn't be able to understand the
Yeah.
right scope. And same time, we need to like there are some advantages we already have. We have a lot of DAOs with different scopes, and we can actually analyze how is it going for them? Is that like enough level of decentralization in there as it is scoped there? Uh, for example, like in Lido, we are, I'd say that on the right side of the scale of the decentralization, literally every decisions are going through the DAO. But it's really unusual. And it also has some disadvantages. So yeah, this research might help future of the DAOs and governance.
Thank you so much. It's been super interesting. At times, I also felt like, oh, yes, somebody understands and shares the pain. Now, to our favorite part of our podcast, well, my favorite part, is we're going to ask you some questions and we'll ask you to just give us one word as an answer. So, I sketched some and take your time to think. It's absolutely fine. We don't expect you to just know the answer right away. First one, how would you describe culture at Lido in one word?
Might it be decentralization?
Right.
There's decentralization.
Okay. One thing in governance that you think should cease to exist in the next couple of years?
Hard one.
Something that you would just cancel right away or wouldn't want to see anymore in the next couple of years.
Really hard one. A lot of such things. How to choose one?
Really?
I'm joking. I'm joking. Um, I have governance and sake of governance, but I'm not sure that this is the one word.
We
Maybe
can
in German
abbreviate it.
it might be one word.
Everything's
So,
somehow one word in German.
so we would just say, yeah, governance for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What inspired you to carry on with your work, with your life?
Also one word?
I know.
Future.
Nice. And the last but not the least, our signature question: what is the future of governance in one word?
Adaptability.
Mhm. I like it.
And I just that adaptability and think like you already have Anthony from Aragon, and maybe he also choose adaptability because they're building exactly this one.
It's okay. I think every guest has very unique and most of the times really unexpected answers. So thank you so much, Jen, for your time, for coming to our podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. The Governance Futures podcast is sponsored by the Scroll Foundation and produced by the governance team at the foundation, Jamila Kamalova and Eugene Lebenthal. Any music and photos are attested in the episode description. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, or share with a friend. Until next time.